Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I want to thank you so much again for dropping in on the show where week after week I bring on C-suite leaders, experts who share their insights with you. I hope this is an amazing resource for you because we do this in service and partnership with C-suite leaders of today, also of tomorrow, to help them navigate their challenges with confidence. And this week, my fantastic guest, I am so thrilled to share the mic with Todd Rountree, who is the president and CEO of Austin American Technology Corporation since 2016. And Austin American Technology is a 38-year-old company specializing in cleaning and testing equipment development and manufacturing, and is based in Burnett, Texas. And Todd also has co-authored papers and articles in the areas of cleaning and microelectronic assembly processes. So smart, so smart. And I cannot wait to bring his insights and thoughts to you. So, Todd, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
And to my audience, I am grateful he said yes, because out of every one of these conversations, I am inspired by things that he said, where it validates what the Drop In CEO brand is about. But a little quick tip: I used to work in the electronics manufacturing industry out of college, worked for a number of technology companies, and I have a sincere appreciation for the technology as well as how much it's evolved. And so, Todd, I do want to shift the mic over to you to share a bit about yourself personally and about your career.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. Maybe a little bit, personally, I was actually a military brat. Was born in Ankara, Turkey, um, and have didn't spend a ton of time there, but about 18 months before moving back to the States, where I've been in several different states, locations throughout my childhood, before finally settling in Florida, as really kind of as a young adult and into my adult life, where I met my wife. And of course, stayed there for about 30 years before moving to Texas. And then once in Texas, I kind of had the opportunity to get connected with the founder of Austin American Technology, which is kind of how that brought me here. My background professionally is actually in sales. I really was an outsider into this industry when I came in. I spent about 17 years in the funeral industry, of all things. Lots of stories about that I could share, but probably not for the listeners. Anyhow, and then, like I said, of course, being here in Texas and getting the opportunity to enter this industry was really something that I was looking for back in 2016. And it just so happened that it was kind of a marriage of personalities, let's say, between the founder of Austin American Technology and myself, which kind of brought us to where we are today. He is transitioning towards a retirement, kind of, well, I say role, but anyhow, in his lifestyle, in his life. And that's kind of what put me, in control here. He was looking for someone to, kind of take the business forward. And that is what we kind of worked together in the beginning to do, and have, I don't know, continuing on that path today.
So you wanted to skip over so many of these things, but this is what makes you so interesting. So I'm just curious, funeral industry, an important industry, and I'm just curious about your experience there and what were some of the things that you learned, challenges that you bring forward into your current work as a CEO.
Yeah, so that's kind of a great, I don't know, great question. The funeral industry, I was actually a manufacturer sales rep for a casket company. Started with one casket company and kind of made my way in the 17 years through two different manufacturers. One kind of by choice, the other was actually through acquisition. We and then actually ended up working for one of the largest casket manufacturers here in the United States. Um, and it was a very, very interesting industry, in the fact that it was a segregated industry, but acceptably segregated. And Once again, learning, learned a lot about religion, the differences in religions and how they treat the deceased. and it was very educational, surprising at times, and anyhow, very interesting. Every day was different. But looking at, and in all honesty, when you talk about how it's related to my current position, one of the biggest things that it taught me was customer service. Being in the funeral industry, and the customer service side of it was that, when a loved one passes away and they make arrangements for a funeral, many, and this also kind of goes back to the religious portion of it, but there are many religions, and even just families for that matter, that are really trying to get the services done quickly. So therefore, for me being on the manufacturer side, the supplier side, when we got a call from a funeral home, it was very important to make sure that we got the product to them in a timely fashion. And that meant answering the phone at night, answering the phone on the weekends, working on the weekends to deliver, things like that. So it really taught me about customer service, which is the probably one major thing that I brought to Austin American Technology. I can't really say so much this industry, but Austin American Technology in particular.
So, what's really powerful about what you say, again, each one of these experiences, while one can say they're a bit disconnected, they all, the accumulation of evolves who you are then as a leader. And what I feel strongly also is that there's the emotional side of it and the cultural diversity that you bring forward with you, into future roles. That, yes, you can just treat it like a sales job and I've got to fill orders, but becoming aware of there's people behind these products for which somebody's trying to provide a service and there's an emotional thing. I think it's wonderful that, you were available, call it 24/7 when people need you. It's far more beyond just the transaction of providing that product, but to also be in service. So I'd never thought about that way. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So let's also just think a little bit about you were invited to join, Austin American Technology. You're the CEO of the company. You have the founder. The founder's, looking at what the future looks like. But when I think about when you guys came together, what was it that there was their strength, and what was it about your skills that complemented that strength? Because I think there's a element of, sustaining their legacy, but also providing what is needed to go forward.
Right. Yeah. So, Austin American Technology, I believe, was so a little bit more about our founder. The founder of the company is actually a chemical engineer by schooling, and a process engineer by trade. So his first job out of college was actually working for Texas Instruments, where he developed the first SMTA line in the state of Texas. So, this was back when they were doing more through hole and all that. And, once again, not to date him too much, but he was hired at Texas Instruments working on military projects, building bombs for the U.S. military, and had to, I guess, adapt to the new technology and in surface mount versus through hole. So that's kind of how he got his start. He worked at Texas Instruments for a while, and then on to some medical device manufacturers, and solar panel manufacturers, and LED manufacturers, and all sorts of different things. But decided he would always kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit, and went out and started Austin American Technology in 1986, while of course still working other jobs. But one of the things that the founder was excellent at, because he had a technologically background, he was great at designing equipment, building equipment that was easy to service, and really kind of staying up with the most advanced, technology in our field. The problem was that he was just not a great businessman. And didn't do great customer service, things like that. So when I was actually hired on, he'd been through a few different presidents, a few different sales managers, things like that, and was really looking for. I was actually hired as the global sales manager first. Um, and that was actually in June of 2016, and I was promoted to president in November of 2016. And that was really just more or less because, like I said, we are a small company, but the founder and I really kind of got along personally, business wise. And that's kind of where or why it progressed to where it did. And for me, the first thing I did was I went out. We have about, even though we're a very small corporately owned company, we have about 34 independent sales reps throughout the United States and Canada. And one of the first things I did was go out and meet with each one and ask them exactly what was wrong with our company. And surprisingly enough, I developed a pretty good list, which I actually keep on my desktop today. It's as a reminder of where we came from. So that's, but the interesting thing was in that list, there were several things that were repeated. And one, or really the biggest thing, was there was no support after the sale. So that's kind of where my customer service background kind of came in. And our founder at the time was really, really interested in growing the company. He wanted to grow it and kind of get it to where it was, much larger than he had originally imagined it could be. And but his idea was always to go out and grow the company by starting a new line of product, or going in a completely different direction, maybe even something outside the industry and building something for that. And we are a manufacturing company, but I kind of convinced in the beginning. I said, hey, let's circle the wagons. Let's kind of make sure that we're the best at what we do. And part of that was actually from the feedback I got from my sales reps was we really needed to, improve our customer service. And so those were kind of my original goals was, let's go ahead and become the best we can be the best to our customers we can be, and then we'll start focusing on growth.
So sometimes it takes two heads. It's much better than one to have that perspective. And again, I've seen this a lot where you may have the CEO who's very visionary, or the number one, the founder, but then you always need somebody on the operations side, maybe a little bit more practical, or let's get a little bit of structure in place here before we expand. If we don't shore up the foundation, and to your point, it was missing that dimension of customer service, could be the beginning of the end if you try to expand in another way. So I really appreciate that. But let's just get a little bit more specific. And again, we don't want to go too tech. I certainly appreciate what you do, and I am dating myself a little bit. But in those mid to late 80s, I was just that engineer learning about service mech technology and through hole, and learning how well it can work, and also developing the quality standards. So it has changed a bit, but I still understand it. So I'm not totally out of the loop here. But when we think about, there could be somebody out there listening, or somebody shares this podcast with somebody. So let this be an opportunity to speak to your ideal client. Who is that person that potentially you would want to talk to, that may be in need of your services, your customer service, or the Austin experience? Who's that person, and where are they at in the journey?
Yeah, I think generally our customer base is going to be the engineer, or engineering manager, at an electronics manufacturing plant. And that could be from a small, working in a strip mall, independently owned, something like that, 5, 6 employees, actually, building, electronics for different customers of theirs. So that would be one. There, we're kind of really more about, at that point, kind of sharing our technology, as well as sharing our, basically our process, our advancements, things like that, that they can actually kind of go and then in turn sell to their customer. Or we go all the way up to probably the largest military manufacturers in the world, the largest aerospace manufacturers in the world. But still those engineers that are working with those with different products, and they always encounter different cleaning problems with the miniaturization of electronics these days, are making them more and more difficult to clean. Of course, the density of the board surface, they're actually packing more and more components, trying to make everything so much smaller than it generally is. So it's those are the engineers that we like to get in front of. And then from there, the message that we really try to get across is that we're here to support you and actually be a part of your business. And that's maybe what sets us a little bit apart from our competitors. Some of our competitors are much larger than us, and you're really kind of more of a number with them. With our business, if you pick up the phone, you can get me on the other end at any point. I have my service team. I'm copied in all the emails, just to make sure if I have any input, I'd like to be able to kind of solve the problem much sooner rather than later. So those are, really kind of who we target, would be really from the engineering level. We move up to the buyers and the C-level suite, if we need to in different facets, but generally it is the engineering that would be our ideal customer.
So that's helpful for me because, again, you and I are just having a conversation. I'm getting to know you because, again, it's about trusting people and then we can talk about your products and services, but you never know how the network will work. I know a lot of people, somebody listening out there, if you're in that space or you know somebody in that space, it could be a great conversation. Connect with Todd because you never know where things might actually go. So, if I could just think about, though, you say customer service, you think is what differentiates you? Because, like you said, there's a lot of companies out there, there's a lot of competition. Customer service, is there anything else that you would say differentiates you versus the big boys?
I mean, definitely technology would be really the number two. I would like to say, I guess, in a hierarchy, customer service definitely number one, but number two would be technology. With our founder moving towards retirement, he is not completely retired, and by him not having to deal with the company on a day-to-day basis, it gives him a whole lot more time to actually look into and research different technologies. Different spray patterns, different nozzles, things like that, ways that we can actually, fluid movement, to transfer energy to the actual board surface, things like that. So we're constantly reinventing, where many of our customers, or I mean, I'm sorry, not our customers, our competitors, are building the same thing they built, 20 years ago. We generally will introduce a new model at least every year. We'll sometimes update our current equipment as we learn more. If we find out that there's something that's actually working better than what we're doing right now, we make that change immediately. We're small enough and nimble enough that we can do that. And hopefully, and like I said, that benefits our customer, by always being, at the cutting edge.
So, what I like about that is that while we respect the larger companies, they have the resources, they have the money, and they have maybe the larger clients or customers. I so appreciate the smaller, medium-sized companies because while you may not have necessarily all the resources that you like of the larger companies, you sometimes have a culture or a purpose or just a team of people that are can do, very customer oriented, that you can wait that can wane as you get a little bit larger. So I definitely want to get as many eyes on you because, like you say, you pick up the phone. But let's come back to you a little bit. So all of a sudden you came in, the head of sales, the next the CEO. Were you equipped for that role? Because I'm just curious about what did you bring with that makes you successful? What do you still challenge with and maybe keeps you up at night?
Yeah, those are great questions too, because, to answer your first portion, was I prepared? Absolutely not. Um, I knew what people wanted, from a sales standpoint. I knew how to provide that, but I really knew nothing about our manufacturing process. I knew nothing about inventory control. I knew nothing about, P&Ls, anything along those lines. But, I'll have to say the founder was instrumental in kind of getting me up to speed. I'll give myself a little credit. I am a quick learner because not only was I trying to pick up how to manage the business, all aspects of that, but I was also trying to learn basically cleaning technology as well, taught by a chemist, which is not always the easiest. But it was definitely a kind of a crash course. And I've learned even more going along. I have to say, I'll give a lot of credit to COVID for teaching me inventory management. We were very fortunate at the beginning of COVID. We did, had a good business. We were actually growing at the time, but when we were available or when we were eligible, got for the first PPP disbursement, we did, obviously apply and take advantage of that resource. But rather than investing in well, the way some people have done it, whether it be in bonuses, things like that, we actually, or I at that point, kind of saw the beginning of what might be, and we invested all of that money in inventory. And come to find out that when 2021 hit, and there were all the supply chain issues, we were actually in a great position, and it helped us grow even more because we ended up, we were able to deliver a whole lot quicker than any of our competitors, and within months quicker than our competitors. So that helped us grow as well. Um, and I am still, I have to say, every day I'm still learning more and more about, about the position, and what all's involved. The day to day, because I still am involved in sales here as well. We do have a sales department, sales team, but I don't know, I still enjoy that portion. So I'm definitely still involved in that. Uh, but learning the cash management, cash flow, things like that is really a daily learning for me. I don't think that ever stops. I think there's always things that you can pick up, whether it be through podcasts like this, research, all sorts of different things. But learning is definitely the key. I definitely would not say I'm a master at anything, and always open to learn more.
So when I think about your story, again, you, the founder is very smart. You bring together some of sales and business perspective, but you didn't have all the pieces. And yes, because of the past, you know you're a quick learner. You took the leap of faith and moved forward. I do find so many leaders um, that don't advance, that don't get into C-suite positions, is because they don't trust themselves or take a risk on themselves to say, well, I know from the past, I've learned a lot since college, from grade school. I've learned my lessons. My parents taught me well. The community made sure I stayed out of trouble. So you've been successful in the past. But somehow, when it comes to our careers, we put the brakes on. We don't take a risk on ourselves. And it's a sad set of affairs. It could be the conditions. You maybe have to protect your family. You can't take a risk. But sometimes we just lose this creativity and ability to move forward. So I congratulate you on you taking a risk on yourself and a leader taking a risk on you to see that the combination could be, a recipe for success. Another thing you said, which was really interesting, is you took advantage of the opportunity to do something with that money that became available during COVID, is invest in inventory. So it kind of goes against business logic to invest in certain areas because people are so concerned about the bottom line. The same thing as with resources. Sometimes, if there's a bottleneck somewhere in your organization, often in operations, sometimes leaders don't realize increase the resources to get through the bottlenecks on a temporary basis. Because if you don't, it's going to snowball and it's going to increasingly cause problems for your customers. Have the courage to make a short term investment now if you can see what the long term future is. So, building up inventory sometimes is not seen as a positive thing, but kudos to you to do that and ride the wave out. I mean, were there naysayers and people that said, "Who, what the hell are you going to do that for?" Whereas everybody behind you, that's a sound investment.
Yes, for sure.
Well, it's a, when you made that decision or when that joint decision was made, was it met with open arms or was there challenges to get that through the
Um,
decision process?
It was actually met with open arms. My operations manager at the time was, he was 100% on board because he was tired of dealing with or worrying about phone calls of people, telling him that equipment was out. We always kind of worked, we generally build to an order. Here is how it's been done for the 30 some years prior to me. And I wanted to kind of get out of that routine, and part of that was being able to, for one, have a really good sales forecast on what you were expecting to come in. Number two, was having the labor to be able to do it, and then of course the third portion was actually having the funds, financing, and the parts, I guess, to be able to make it happen. So that was kind of where everybody here, most of my team, was really interested or really excited about the opportunity to be able to kind of pre-build or build inventory, during that time period. So it was received very well. The founder was 100% on board as well, although he was a little non-existent during COVID. Was a little afraid of being exposed. So we usually didn't see him for, I don't know, 3-4 months at a time. But it was definitely well received. And in hindsight, it was maybe a little risky, but it worked out. So we're very happy about that.
Knock on wood. So, you've shared a bit about yourself from the past and who you are as you came up in leadership. You shared a bit about the company. What's your differentiation, your strategic advantage about being very customer service focused, always changing, always evolving. As we think about then the future, maybe the next couple years or so, what are some of the things that you're focused on to make sure that, the business is sustainable and continues to serve your customers?
Hmm. And once again, another great question. I kind of mentioned to you in our talks a little earlier on, we did have the opportunity to acquire one of our competitors this year, which was really part of our goal to grow. So that did about double our size, both in employees and revenue, which has proven to be very difficult. It's the first time I've ever gone through, obviously, an acquisition or anything along those lines. So still learning a lot going through that process, especially operating in a different state as well. So we have 2 locations now, and yeah, learning laws and all that other kind of stuff from different states. Been very educational. Um, but yeah, I don't, the going forward portion for us, our focus right now is really on kind of completing this merger between the 2 companies. We're actually looking at trying to move their location. We're trying to consolidate all in one location here. So actually add another building on our property to house them and their employees, working on that transition to try to get them, all the employees to move out here, at least all that will. And being able to finance that is another portion of that. But once we actually get past that, which we hope to be kind of completed by mid next year, the focus then is going to be on consolidating our lines and updating technology. So we here at our location introduced a new, you'll probably understand this, but a new stencil cleaner in 2023, and it uses some technology that nobody else in our industry is using. And we have had such success with it that we're trying to implement it across our line, our complete line. So that's really kind of our focus, is to, like I said, consolidate the 2 different brands of equipment and then update all of it with this new technology.
That's very exciting times. And you and I could talk about acquisitions and mergers and consolidation. That's kind of like my specialty. Whenever we go through these changes with all good intentions, and there's certainly some financial perspectives, ERP perspectives, very technology oriented, but I often find it's got to be done with a holistic approach, be very human centric, it respect for the intellectual property, people's past, to preserve that because maybe the customers depended on them and maybe you may not know all the nuances. So it's not just the transactional, but you got to still be customer focused when trying to make sure that there's a continue service to them. So we can talk more about that another time.
Yes.
But
True.
this has been, and first of all, this is not a one and done for you. I just love getting to know more about you. My listeners get to know about you as well, and maybe could check you out, go to your website, etc. Because obviously, if there's some engineers out there or companies that are associated with this technology, we definitely want them to connect with Todd Rountree. And so, I want to give you the floor one last time to share anything you'd like for people to get a hold of you, or any last thoughts that you want to share with my audience.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that. I don't really know of any last thoughts, other than maybe just some advice to anybody who's trying to work their way up. I appreciate you, kind of recognizing the I guess not daring, but what am I trying to say? The taking the opportunity to try to advance yourself and move forward. So anyhow, I appreciate that. But the other portion I would say is to try to get a hold of me. Our website is Austin, or well, our obviously Austin American Technology. We're www.aat-corp.com. And our number here is 512-756-4150. Feel free to reach out. You can contact us on our website. We have a contact button there as well. And if you want to reach me personally, you can always email me at todd@aat-corp.com.
All right. Well, I'm just grateful that you took the time. You said yes to dropping in on the podcast. You've given me an opportunity to learn more about you, your successes, your challenges, and maybe even a way for me to connect my network with you and the work that you're doing. So I just want to say thank you again for dropping in and wish you well and continued success, Todd.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. It was very nice.